All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. It is January 19th. My name's Nick. Welcome to another edition of the Hi5 series presented by the DH podcast. And I think the best place to get into it is Jared Porter. If you haven't been following this story, it broke a little bit late last night, and the Mets didn't do what we typically see the Mets do. So when you think about the Mets, you think about how inept and terrible the Wilpons are, and because of that, they mess up any good media opportunity they got. Well, not under the watch of Stevie Cohen. Uncle Stevie decides that, hey, let's do the right thing for once. Let's do the smart thing for once, for ourselves, for our organization, for our morale, for our reputation. And that's exactly what they did, was they fired Jared Porter this morning. Now, if you're saying to yourself, Nick, who the hell is Jared Porter? Well, then you haven't been on the internet in the past 15, 16 hours. Jared Porter, I think it started back in 2016 when he worked for the Cubs, that he was a head scout for the Cubs. And he had sent a foreign reporter and correspondent a ton of lewd messages, inappropriate messages, and what really got headlines was that he sent an unsolicited dick pic. Started off with a picture of his crotch with pants on, also lunatic move, and then didn't receive any response, so decided, hey, that didn't get the job done, let's go over here. Let's just take this where we were already falling off the cliff, and let's throw a bomb off the cliff while we're going. Couldn't be more stupid by Jared, if you ask. When somebody doesn't respond, they're clearly not into you. But what gets me about this Jared Porter part is that he sent 62 unanswered text messages. I can't even text my parents twice without feeling guilty. And this man sends out 62 text messages. Also, one of them being an open mouth selfie. Are you kidding me? The 62 gets me the most because that's a literal serial killer move. That is a serial killer. I'm going to print this off later and use it to cut it out and put it on pieces of paper and then turn it in to the detectives of True Detective. And that's how they're going to find me. Insanity, lunacy. I see a lot of people barking up the wrong tree here. I see a lot of people barking up the tree of, oh, well, ESPN sat on this information since literally 2017. So we're on our, almost fourth full year of ESPN sitting on this information and doing nothing. Well, they did that for a good reason. They did that not for Jared. This information was going to come out regardless. It was going to come out. But what they wanted to do was they wanted to protect the woman that was in the situation. They wanted to say, hey, you know what? You're fearful for your job. You're fearful for that if this comes out, that what's going to happen is you are going to face retaliation. You're going to face negative repercussions, which is just an unfortunate part of our society. So ESPN, in my opinion, did the right thing by sitting on this information. The only unfortunate thing was that ESPN got to make it a bigger story because Jared Porter is no longer a scout. He's in the front office as the GM for the Mets. So they got to make it this huge story, and they buried the years really deep in there. So unless you were kind of knowledgeable about the situation and kind of read up on it a little bit, that you might not have known that this took place all the way back in 2016. Whether it takes place in 2016, 2006, 1996, I don't give a shit. You can't do that. There's no place in the sport for that. Stephen Cohen did the right thing by canning his ass this morning. There's no serviceable way to get around it. There's no apologies that you can have that make this right. There's legitimately not. You can, and now I'm thinking about it, you can't even salvage that career. There's nothing to be salvaged. So Jared Porter can just go back to doing non-MLB things, because if Stephen Cohen cans you, everybody respects Stevie, it's going to be a league-wide ban now. You're shadow banned from the league. That's just how it works. And then you have literally nobody to blame but yourself. You couldn't have escalated it more if you could. couple text messages, and then the groin pick. A lot more texts, open mouth selfie. Tens more texts, dick pic. Can't do it. Can never do that. Even the first pick was wrong. You send 2 text messages, and then hey, they're just not into you. Because I promise you, man, if they're into you, they'll text you back a few hours later. In the words of Tyler I Am, she'll text you back, bro. There's no excuse. Never has been, never will be. Simple as that. And the Mets did the right thing, which we're not very used to seeing the Mets do. Trying to flip a little here, I saw For the Win dropped an article either last night or yesterday during the day that Drew Brees, so for number 2, Drew Brees should not be judged by his postseason failures when we're looking at an entire career of massive success. No. Got a lot of good writers over there. For the Win's a USA Today product. A lot of good writers. No. It's like me saying, hey, Michael Jordan's great. But, did you see that he only won 1 finals? Yeesh. Yes, we can appreciate the fact that Drew Brees has continued to showcase excellence on the football field. Setting records on the field, getting trophies that we didn't even know existed, handing him sheets of paper from the refs that he just broke another record. Of course, we can appreciate that he's shown greatness in him. I don't even know when he was drafted. I think it was like 2009. Totally forget. That's all. He's 42. So I guess I got to do the math, and I did my math wrong even earlier than that. Whatever. You get the point. When you're looking at the holistic piece, you have to be able to accept when somebody couldn't do something. When you're looking at the holistic piece of Drew Brees' career, you need to be able to simply acknowledge the fact that they couldn't get the job done. Their main touchdown was not thrown by Drew Brees in that playoff game. It was thrown by Jameis Winston. Drew Brees has massive injuries sustained to his ribs and shoulders as a 42-year-old man. On top of that, he's throwing thousands of yards per season, tens of touchdowns per season. That in itself is an amazing feat. But when your playoff game and you can't even show up, it looks like it's hurting to throw 25 yards down the field to a Michael Thomas who seems to not want to be there. What the hell is wrong with Michael Thomas? I have no idea. That's entirely another point that we can get to at a later date. But you need to be able to do both, especially when Drew Brees is retired, which maybe now, I don't know, he hasn't officially said. Jake Glazer said, like we talked about yesterday. I don't know. You need to be able to take the good with the bad, and there's nothing wrong with being able to say, hey, this guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer. No question about it. And when we look at it, we're going to be disappointed that he couldn't have the postseason success of some of his other peers of the years. Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, who just took him out, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning. These are guys that we encapsulate in this kind of era of quarterbacks. Now, he has, in my opinion, other guys that are in his era that he kicks the shit out of, no question. Phil Rivers, obviously. Joe Flacco has a ring, doesn't matter, obviously. There are these guys that we think about that we put them in the same age bracket because they're in that 38 to 45 age range. And Drew Brees is far and away better than, at least in my opinion, all of them but one. I would rather take a healthy Drew Brees than all of them but Tom Brady on my team. Simple as that. And it's tough because now, like I mentioned yesterday, it's Clyde Drexler. Clyde Drexler's a Hall of Famer, but he gets overlooked because he played against Michael Jordan all the time. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Drew Brees. People are going to appreciate him. People that watched him, like myself, and grew up with him, are going to love him. And that's great. But you got to be able to take the good with the bad. So saying you can't take postseason failures into account, that's dumb. Can't do that. That's just not doing the correct thing. Got to be able to take it all. On to the NBA for your number 3. Mavs are on a slide. boy, they're getting their ass kicked all over the court. That's rough. I was actually writing some of this last night, and I said that the Lakers smacked the Warriors because, well, they were up by 15 points when they were up by more than 15 points, and it's gone. And it's gone, because they just can't do it. They just can't do it. And Steph comes back, hits the dagger over AD. Whew. Had my overreactionary LeBron fans and Laker fans in the Twitter timeline. It's always fun to see. And then they tell me they deleted the tweets later on. Love it. But hey, sometimes you just gotta get it out and then delete it. I don't hate that. I might start doing that, frankly. I should have done a lot of that with the Browns game. I just refuse to delete my tweets because, I don't know, it is clearly no high ground. Nobody wants to read that shit half the time anyway. So, whatever. Nets beat the Rockets. That's a huge game. That's a huge game. Sorry. Apologies. Pump the brakes. Nets beat the Bucs. An even bigger game. Giannis balled out, and it took Kevin Durant and James Harden to beat him by only 2 points. So this is a matchup we're going to see a lot more. You most likely just saw an Eastern Conference Finals matchup. I think the Nets are now more realistically a better challenger for the Bucs than the Heat are, and the Celtics are seeming to just fall flat. I mean, they're posting an above-average record, but falling flat. And if you run the same product back enough and you couldn't even make the finals then, you're not going to make the finals when the East just got significantly better. Simple as that. All right, number 4, Jon Lester leaving the Cubs, signing with the Nationals. He'll join Max Scherzer. He'll join Steven Strasburg in D.C. So, I guess that's his capital he's storming. I'm sorry. I had to. But it's only 1 year. We don't know the specific number yet. When we figure that out, we'll of course be bringing that to you. It's helping the rotation. It's another veteran leadership. Obviously, Strasburg and Scherzer are both veteran leaders, but being able to pump up the bullpen for even just one more season is going to help them in trying to get back to the World Series and win another title for the city. No question about it. Jon Lester can do that. He's done it with 2 different teams, and he's kind of followed Theo Epstein almost in a weird way. So maybe he'll be in the front office of the MLB soon. I don't know. Just like Theo. All right. Let's see. Number 5. We're rounding this out here. So we started with Jared Porter. We got to Drew Brees. We got to the NBA. Some big news. Especially the Nets beating the Bucs. That's massive, especially morale for the Nets because that's them saying, oh shit, we can actually do this. And they still don't have Kyrie Irving, by the way. Number 4 was Jon Lester. Number 5, we're going to route this one out with Ravens released RGIII. Ravens also released Mark Ingram. In not a laundry list, but when you release 6 or 7 people at once, I kind of consider it a laundry list. Those are just the 2 names that you people are going to know the most. Mark Ingram, being in the league since 2011, a staple in the running back community. But J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are holding their own on that Ravens lineup. And they needed the veteran leadership of Ingram. There's a reason why they got so many wins in the first half of the season. It's because Ingram. Veteran leadership, proper practice, and training allowed for Gus Edwards and for J.K. Dobbins to take that next step. As a Browns fan, I'm very mad that the Ravens have J.K. Dobbins. I was assuming that he's going to be an incredible running back, and he is coming into form. So he may not get that huge second contract that he might think he deserves, but he is really coming into form, and he'll be a workhorse down back whenever you need it. Simple as that. It's going to be the same way that you're going to see guys like Trey Sermon, another Ohio State product, try to prove themselves, especially after a huge injury like this. So, like he suffered in the national championship. We'll see what they can do. It always sucks that when you have to end your football game in the hospital. Never a good sign, but it always breaks people to want to drive and do more. Besides Ingram, like I said, big name was RG3. backup for Lamar in the sense that he could, not run the same style offense, but attempt to run the same style offense to where he could do the RPO if he needed. He could scramble if he needed. He can make a simple pass to Mark Andrews or a pass to Gus Edwards in the flat. Those things can be done. Now, for salary cap reasons, they're going to let him go. But I think if you're another team that needs a solid backup, that's incredible. One, because now you could practice, try to get a feel of how the Ravens and the Chiefs and wherever Cam Newton goes, how they operate. It's not going to be perfect, but you'll get a better sense in practice for your defense, for your first line defense, to be able to see how these guys are going to operate when you get a stylistic quarterback like them. It's going to be huge. Number two, it eases up for the Ravens to be able to sign Lamar. You got huge offseason in the contract world. It's Baker, it's Lamar, it's Josh Allen, it's Sam Darnold. Everybody from that draft class is coming up, and I can promise you 3 of those guys are going to get good paychecks because all 3 of them deserve it. I mean, they were literally all in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs this year, and they're all under 26 years old. If you're an NFL franchise and you don't sign them to a lucrative contract, you're just literally shooting yourself in the foot and wanting to start back at square A when you wanted to draft these people. So they're all going to get contracts, but it's going to be really, really interesting to see who gets paid first, because I think that's going to set a precedent. I personally think that Josh Allen is going to end up with the highest price tag of all of these guys. I also think that he has the longest longevity. I just said the same word twice, but the longest career potential with the offensive style that he plays. That's it. That has been another edition of the Hi5 series. I know we ran a little late. I was ranting. Jared Porter took almost, a third of this time up. So thank you very much for tuning in. We will catch you tomorrow. But today has been Tuesday, January 19th edition of the Hi5 series. I'm Nick once again. Have an amazing day.